Look what we got in the mail. So when I was in Colorado and I was in a hurry because we were trying to make it to the racetrack, I put that little 2.5 gallon fuel cell in there because it was easy. I could just throw it up in the front, didn't take a lot to build a bracket, and it was a short fuel system, so it didn't take long to build hoses or anything like that. Now we've got a little bit more time. I decided that since this is potentially going to be a drag and drive truck, it's time to do something a little bit better. So we ordered a bigger, cheap fuel cell. It's not fancy. It's just a DNA motoring from Amazon 15-gallon fuel cell. It's nice, comes with the sender. We won't use it because we don't even have a fuel gauge, but we're gonna mount this back here. Part of the reason that I also want to go to a bigger fuel cell, aside from being able to drive it on the street and having enough fuel to go more than 2 miles, is since we're moving it to the back, the extra weight is beneficial back here. We still have to carry it, but back here it's in the right place. I think that's where we're gonna put it. A couple of reasons. One, the holes line up with the rib. Two, the sump is gonna be between the two cross members down there. And three, it's centered in the truck. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace out the pattern and cut out the floor for the sump to hang down, and then we'll drill the 4 holes and put the bolts in it. We're going to clean up the rough edges so that we don't poke a hole in the fuel cell. Our bed has a dent. That dent is going to cause some problems. Let me see if I can fix it. Dent fixed. I think we better take this dent out too. It clears, it's not touching, but I would like to have a little more room there. All right, now that we got it positioned, we got plenty of clearance on our fuel line there. Time to mark, ow, all the holes. Now we just got to drill the holes. Where are they at? What do you suppose the chances are that our old fuel line is going to be the right length for our new fuel system? I'm going to go see. I think that'll work. All right, now probably need to go ahead and mount the nitrous so we can hook up the nitrous hose. Let's get that done. Okay, now we need to run our fuel line from the fuel pump all the way up to where the regular is going to be mounted on the firewall. I'm going to use these rubber cushion clamps to tie these fuel lines and the fuel line and the nitrous line together all the way down the frame rail. Something like that. You won't be able to watch it because, well, you won't be able to see it under here, so I'm just going to do it. We got our fuel line all ran to the front, and it's all captured in those rubber cushion clamps all the way down the inside of the frame rail. Our nitrous line is run with it. I did have to make a loop in the nitrous line because it was about 1.5 feet too long. And these are crimped. You can't really, I mean, you might be able to shorten them, but I don't know if that's a great idea. We put our fuel pressure regulator on, the same one that was on the truck before. It's a CNS fuel pressure regulator. It's a pretty good one. It came off my race car back from when I raced circle track, and it works good, so I'm going to use it. I had this gauge, and I was going to run this one because, well, I had it, but I got to looking through some stuff, and in one of the fitting kits or something I ordered, I got this gauge. So we're going to run this one instead. But this is where our fuel pressure regulator is going to go. We just got to make this line shorter and hook it up right there. And then our nitrous will come off of the other side of the regulator and come around and hook in right there. The fuel for our nitrous, this is still fuel, it's not nitrous. When you're cutting this steel braided hose, I feel like the easiest thing to do is to get you some electrical tape. And for this, I recommend the cheapest stuff you can find because you're just going to cut it in half. So I don't use my good stuff on this. Just make a spot. I want to cut it kind of in the middle of that mark, and then I just use the cutoff wheel on my grinder. And now for the hard part, we got to try to build this line attached to the truck because, well, I attached it to the truck. So we just put our collar on here, and it just turns on its left-hand thread, so it turns backwards till the rubber comes all the way up to the bottom of the collar there. A little oil on the insert. Okay. Then I'll hold this with my hand as far as I can. I think that's going to be about it. I'm probably going to mar these fittings up, but it's okay. Yep. Nice and tight. Now we need to take the other end off, blow some air through it, and get all that rubber we just put in there when we cut it out. Since I had to redo the end of this line because I forgot the fuel filter, I got another trick for you. On these ones that have this really short collar that you have to turn it by, if you just put a fitting in there and tighten it down, it'll hold that, and usually you can turn it in with the fitting. That way you don't have to try to grab that little end there. So then after you get this started, just tighten up your fitting. Hold the bottom. And then you run less risk of damaging the fitting when you're putting it together. Alright, now we gotta blow it out again. Last hose we have to make goes from the other side of the fuel pressure regulator. Well, this is the first one of these I've got out of that cheap Amazon stuff that it's really stiff. I'll have to spin that around and see if we can get it loosened up. But it's going to go from this side of the regulator over here to the fuel solenoid for the nitrous. And after I adjust the valves, I'll probably build a bracket to hold this that I can put in that valve cover bolt, just so it's not hanging out here, and because there's no fender wells or anything anymore. So for this one, since we're not putting a fitting on it, I'm going to use a piece of really heavy duty shrink wrap and see if I can get it to contain all those pieces of wire. That didn't work out very good. Attempt number 2. think that's gonna work good. There we go. Now I just need to find a good hose clamp to hold that and put some type of brace, maybe right here. Just something to keep this hose from pulling down on that little fuel line. Look what we found! We got most of a Dodge truck. Messing around on Facebook, I seen this for a while, and there was a cab that went with it, but for whatever reason there wasn't information when you clicked on the link, and I thought, well, it's just like a phantom listing or whatever, it's not really there anymore. Well, then suddenly on my phone it was there, and I'm like, oh, so I called, went and got it. Like I said, there's not a lot left of it, but it had a few important pieces that we needed, so it was a good deal. Mostly what we wanted was the grill. It's already gone in this footage because it's already being used, but the fenders are okay. The radiator support is pretty good. It's got a little rust, but it's not rusted through. It's just some surface rust. It's got a valance. The frame looks pretty good. It's a 2-wheel drive frame, same vintage. It's got a rear end. It's got all the front suspension, and it has a box that could be fixed. It's not great, but it could be fixed. And this stuff is getting harder and harder to find, so just to have a few extra parts, I didn't have to pay a lot for it. I got a really good deal on it, I think, so it was worth the trip to go get it. When we got back from picking the truck up, it was time to adjust the valves. Now that I've got the valves adjusted and the valve covers back on, it's time to go ahead and get our spark plugs gapped and run all of our spark plug wires. And then we just gotta put the gauges back in and hook up the water temperature and the oil pressure gauge, and we're ready to test fire this thing, see if it'll run again. I think we have everything done that we need to be able to fire this. Oil is good. Transmission fluid's on the stick. I mean, I can't really check it till it's running. Timing is good. Carburetor's baseline settings. Everything is hooked up. All the wiring is hooked up. Obviously no radiator, so they're not gonna be able to run it very long, but we just really want to test it and fire it and make sure it's gonna run. Don't have fuel yet because I didn't want to get fuel in the carburetor till I got the baseline settings done on that. I think we're ready to put fuel in, so we're gonna go do that. All right, there's a couple gallons. That should be enough to get us fired up and see if it's gonna run. All right, I'm gonna flip the fuel pump on. You guys watch for leaks. Gotta turn the key on. Well, something's not working the way it's supposed to. We have a fuel leak. Nope, we got fuel at the fuel pump. We do. I think I might know what the problem is. I thought this regulator would work both ways, but that regulator is actually set up to be a bypass regulator. And I don't think it's gonna work in this. I have another one. I wanted to use the better one, but I'll put the other one on it. It's not building pressure.
What pressure should it have?
I'd like it to be up around 6 pounds. Is it moving?
Yeah. 11, 10?
Did it go almost instantly?
Yeah.
Okay, shut it off. Yeah, fuel pump's working fine. The regulator's no good, which doesn't surprise me because it's pretty and colored, and so we got to figure out a different regulator. We're gonna have to order something different for a regulator, obviously. I was worried about this, that's why I didn't put this one on here to start with. So what we're gonna do for now is the bowls are full. We're gonna go ahead and test fire it and see if it runs, and we can worry about that tomorrow.
The No Name Nationals is fast approaching, and we will be selling limited edition extra parts shirts in the pits. So come say hi and get yourself one.
And a huge shout out to my daughter for drawing the truck that we used on the shirt. She did an amazing job.
If you can't make it to Sykeston or you don't want to wait, you can get this version in the link below. Thank you as always for all of your kind comments and support.
We're just gonna let it run for a few seconds, make sure it runs, and then it's time to start putting the rest of it back together. Amber, you look for oil leaks. Just wave your hand if it's leaking oil. Okay. I think we're gonna need the battery charger. It runs. It didn't leak. I ran out of fuel. And it still doesn't have any fuel pressure. Regulator's on the way. While we're waiting for that, we're gonna go ahead and get the front end put back on, sans all the stuff that we don't need, so we can finish up our weight loss program and get this thing nut and bolted and ready to go to the racetrack for test and tune. See you soon.